record, I am sick. I don't know what happened between yesterday and today, but I got something happened. I don't know what happened between yesterday and today. So you're gonna have to bear with me. And against my better judgment, I want to watch this on stream because I think this video is very important. I think everyone needs to see it. And so the more amplification I give it, the better. Don't worry, I'm doped up on painkillers and I have a hot cup of tea. I have a hot cup of tea to get me through this. It's mostly just my throat. I don't know what the fuck happened. Like, I mostly feel fine otherwise. It really is just my throat. I don't know what the problem is. Like, I don't have a fever. I don't have a headache. I don't have any it's just my sinuses and my throat that feel like a fucking war zone. And there will be no screaming today. There will be no screaming today. Yes, we're watching the Weezy video because I was waiting for this video to come out. I was waiting for this video to come out because I wanted to watch it on stream. And I watched the first few minutes of it, and I'm like, fuck, I have to share this. I have to share it. So we're gonna watch together. Just bear with me. My voice is not as it should be. It'll if I don't actually, you know what? If I don't project my voice, then I can keep it this low, and it's not gonna tear up my throat. So if I talk quietly, then that's probably better. It'll be a little ASMR, so you guys will have to bear with me. But you guys won't mind having me talk like this, just so I can get through it. Hello. It might be COVID. I have a COVID test. I haven't taken it yet. Hello. Hi, Gary. Yes, Gary, I'm here against my better judgment. I know I shouldn't be doing this. So, but a bad quality trait about me is that I will still do work despite being sick. I have to feel really bad to not want to work or do something. Otherwise, I'll go insane. By the way, I had a thought and I lost it. Shit. Oh well, it'll come back to me. Probably not that important. But again, I feel fine. I took a nap. I took a nap a little while ago. I'm on painkillers. I have a hot glass of honey tea. I've been sucking on those zinc lozenges. So hopefully it'll keep me going here. MVM is by far my favorite way to play TF2. I'm praying they don't botch this. Listen, man, I think all of us are hoping the same thing. All of us are hoping that Valve doesn't drop the ball on this. We really, really hope they won't. But you have to remember, this is Valve we're talking about. This is Valve, and this is why I'm really glad Weezy made this video. I think this video is important because I think it's really going to help curb people's expectations and get everyone into a more realistic mindset about what's going to happen with this update. Because, as is notorious within the TF2 community, is people will overhype anything that Valve does. And I think it's very good to keep our expectations in check. And Weezy touches on a lot of stuff in this that I think everyone needs to hear. Because he had drip-fed a little bit of this to me in DMs. And I think people need it's not just about matchmaking bullshit. There's a lot of other stuff in here too. You know, I'm excited about more MVM content as well, but you're hearing it straight from the guy that is at least in the YouTube scene, the most in tune and experienced with MVM stuff. So I have tea, don't worry. Screaming my lungs out because this one YouTuber posted a glass onion-esque puzzle. The answer is simple, but the script sucks. I feel you. There you go. Bro's going through second puberty. Oh my god. No, I'm not. I'm not going through second puberty. Oh yeah, again, this is important to watch. $5 to turn the COVID test into content. I'll do it on stream. but I don't think anyone's gonna want to watch me stick a Q-tip in my nose, so use this couple of cough drops and hot whiskey. Dude, I could go for some hot whiskey with lemon right now. I have some whiskey in my fridge. I might actually do that tonight. That sounds like a really good idea. I'll do it later. I'll do it after the stream's over, because I don't want to start with taking the COVID test. I'm not in the mood to make myself sneeze. I like, before I start, very short story. I went overseas on a scientific expedition, and it was like during COVID, and they made us test, like, was it once a day or twice a day? Oh my god, it fucking sucked. We had to like check in right when we woke up, and first thing in the morning we had to do was a COVID test. We had to wear masks on a ship for 3 or 4 days. And when you're seasick and you have a mask on, it's just an extra barrier that you have to remove before you puke into a toilet, which is not fun. I was not the only one that threw up into their mask. So, yeah, the COVID regulations were a little silly. But, thank you. All those loadouts must have aged. Dude, I don't know what happened between last night and now. I really don't. Something fucking just jumped up and bit me. It jumped up and bit me. Okay, let's get started. I think we need to get the ball rolling here. So Weezy, Banana Boy has presented us with a lovely video that, again, I think everyone needs to watch. And so we're going to do that right now. And I'm hopefully going to send this some amplification and more views, because I think people need to see this shit. People need to hear this shit. So let's do it.
A brand new MVM update coming to TF2. The last time this happened was over 12 years ago, so ending that dry streak is very much appreciated. This will no doubt be a massive boon to the game mode's longevity, and I'm happy to see our coveted PvE mode finally get the attention it deserves. But I have concerns. There are a lot, and I do mean a lot.
So the one question that I don't think we're ever going to get answered is why? Why is Valve doing this? Who at their offices got the wild hair and said, fuck it, it's been 12 years, but let's update MVM? I want to know why, and I want to know who thought they could do this. Not that I'm complaining. I'm just curious. I mean, but like, not that many people play MVM, right? And even when MVM launched and you had the Aussies and shit, it wasn't that grandiose. Like, they would probably make way more from the Scream Fortress case than an MVM update. They would have to give some serious incentive for people to buy in to what's inevitably going to be a monetized update. Valve would have to be monumentally stupid to not monetize it. You know they will. But I want to know why. Who at Valve thought this was a good idea? Not enough people running the gamble in MVM anymore since the bots got sacked, so they're updating it. I mean, it's possible. I don't know, man. I don't know.
A lot of ways that this update can go wrong, and pretty much all of them have been overlooked by the community at large. Now that makes sense.
No one's thinking
the
about
only thing most people are aware of is a blog post written in voodoo gibberish and endless speculation about what golden skid marks Valve are gonna shit out by next Tuesday. I can assure you, the rate—
I still think that blog post was written by AI. I really don't think human hands wrote that. It is such an incoherent pile of babble. I refuse to believe a human hands made that. It's so incomprehensibly dense, and just maybe they got hacked. Maybe, I don't know, man. But no, I mean, Weezy's right. Most people are more concerned about whatever Aussies they're gonna add, and that's like the main. I mean, if that's of any indication, that's, you know, people care about the gold guns, not the actual game mode. It takes a certain flavor of TF2 autism, different than mine, to actually go out of your way and play MVM because it's fun, and Weezy is that flavor of autism. If I were to choose 3 Aussies, shotgun, pistol, and then just for being selfish and for my own benefit, I would like a Dragon's Fury because I would like a strange Dragon's Fury. But like shotgun and pistol are just really no-brainers. I'm surprised they didn't do those first. So, who knows?
Radar's got more red dots than that. So today we're going to cover what the Man vs. Machine update actually entails, but more importantly, make it abundantly clear to both Valve and the TF2 fanbase where the tripwires are and how Valve are able to best navigate them. Keep in mind, almost everything I'll be talking about in this video is pure speculation. Nothing here is 100% conclusive.
Of course, nothing's 100% conclusive, but you also have to remember this is Valve we're talking about here. So this is 100% based in now over a decade's worth of pretty mediocre treatment towards the game. So I think a video like this is very warranted. So, of course he has to preface it with being speculation, but I just think it's very real. It's realistic. So
I'm just positing theories based on whatever evidence we have available to us. Starting off with the most pressing ponderance of all, how far is this update going to go? Are we getting boot camp missions only? Are we getting a brand new MVM tour with recycled loot pools? Or are we getting a fully fleshed out update consisting of new missions on new maps with new loot drops to acquire? Well,
So, like, if Valve was smart, right? If Valve wasn't stupid, they would do the latter. They would give us new guns to gamble for. They'll make fully fleshed out missions that people can buy into. It's not that hard to do, right? It can't be that hard to do. But if the last 8 years are of any indication, chances are it's just going to be a copy and paste job. I will be surprised if they go beyond making a community section in the boot camp option and then just throw some maps in there and leave it at that. Like, it would not surprise me if that's all they did. But then again, they would have to be very dumb in order to not monetize this, right? And yes, it would be so easy to add new rewards, but I don't know if they will. I think they're just so, like, they're so unbelievably lazy. And we have Scream Fortress to consider as well. Like, I mean, it's all the work's being done for them, right? All the work's being done for them. So it's like, they have no excuse. They really don't. But this is Valve we're talking about.
Delving into the blog post, we can nail down the criteria a bit. Now, I'd sound like a stroke victim if I attempted to read this out loud, so I'll just hone in on the points worth mentioning.
God bless Canadian loonies. Thank you.
The first of which is Valve alluding to dropping the update around the Scream Fortress update in October, which points in the direction of this being a integrated content patch alongside the standard cosmetic drops and the like. The following statements seem to shit in the same time, claiming that while
he's gonna get to it in a minute, but it's gonna be its own standalone thing.
Maps did not need to be Halloween themed, some of them
This is what I
could
worry
be.
about.
That's
what I really worry about, man. I really, really hope to God that this is not going to be holiday themed at all. The last thing I want to see is like Halloween fuck, I can't remember any of the MVM maps. Halloween decoy or decoy events. Like, please just so don't, like, I don't want to see event versions of any existing MVM maps where, and it's going to be zombies. I have to talk low. Let me make myself talk lower. You know, I don't want it to be shit. I just hope they don't do event reskins of existing MVM, but you know that workshoppers they're already doing it. They're already doing it. And you know for a fact we're going to see at least one. We're going to see at least one of them be Halloween themed, and it's going to suck. It's going to be just really overtly tacky. Really hope they don't do that. It's such shitty, rotten, low-hanging fruit that I hope they would just dismiss it, but I don't know, man. Oh, I really hope not.
The fact that Valve are entertaining the idea of at least a few missions having aesthetic parity with traditional Scream Fortress maps seems to give away the game a bit. While they do state that the maps shouldn't be Halloween themed, that's easy to write off as Valve wanting to keep those maps in rotation long term. Similarly to what we already see with the summer and Christmas content of today.
Like, people would be really mad if it was strictly holiday restricted, right? If they put in new MVM maps, but sorry, they're only available during Halloween or Christmas. That would piss off a lot of people. So I think they're not that dumb. They're gonna avoid doing that. So yeah, I don't trust this update either, dude. I really don't. Tomodachi live stream when I do need to do that. I will do it.
So insisting that thematic elements take on more of a generalized form is an easy way to accomplish that goal without detracting from the seasonality of the update. The day one consensus seemed clear. The MVM update would be a branch of this year's Scream Fortress update, but unlike the other Halloween content, it would maintain an in-game presence come November. If that's your default assumption based on the facts presented, I wouldn't blame you. But what if I told you that despite everything presented, Man vs. Machine isn't related to Scream Fortress at all? That sounds like a reach given how much Valve referenced Halloween and Scream Fortress itself in the blog post, but very shortly afterwards, we were given some more illuminating information. TF2 Workshopper and fellow YouTuber Cypherlock decided to email Eric Smith, one of the few remaining devs known to be working on TF2. He inquired about the potential for loot drops, which we will come back to, but more relevant to this topic, whether or not the Scream Fortress update would be usurped by the Man vs. Machine one. Eric Smith would reply to his email, stating, in plain English, the Man vs. Machine update will not affect any other updates.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
That's it.
Operating under the premise of...
I mean, that's it. There you go. Valve, I still think that they're gonna drop it at the same time as Scream Fortress. I think it's gonna just come with the Scream Fortress update, but all of the content is gonna be more standalone. Like, I'm hoping the implication is that they're going to avoid themed content, and the bulk of the MVM stuff they add alongside it is not going to be themed, right? But I still think they're going to launch it with Scream Fortress, at least when the Scream Fortress update comes and not when the Halloween maps turn on October 1st. So I'm sick, for the record. That's why I sound like this. Wonder if they'll lower the amount of content for Scream Fortress, like less maps and stuff. Like, they have, like Cypher, they have no reason to lower the amount of content in Scream Fortress because it's just copy and paste. Like, they don't do any work for the 3 updates we get a year. They just copy and paste stuff that's on the workshop and put it in the game. Like, if they are so lazy that they opt to do less than usual in any capacity for Scream Fortress, that would be kind of pathetic because, again, it's just a copy and paste job. So I hope that they're more reserved in terms of the number of maps they're going to add, which I'm sure this video is going to touch on later if what Weezy told me before is going to hold up in here. But yeah, it seems like these are going to be separate nuggets of updates, but I still think they're going to drop at around the same time, if not the same day. Like, they're just going to launch the MVM update and then push their Scream Fortress with it. We'll see. I mean, it makes sense to do that where because you have the case and you have all the MVM stuff, and if they're going to monetize it, you're going to gamble for it too. It's easier for them to push it all at the same time. And Valve is, of course, lazy, and they'll do whatever is the easiest. Would they copy from Potato? It's only stuff that's uploaded onto the workshop. That's the only content Valve will consider is what's uploaded onto the workshop, which does include a lot of the stuff that Potato.tf has played in the past. So if it's on there, it's up for consideration.
This being true, that means that the content structure of Scream Fortress is seemingly going to remain unchanged. Maps, cosmetics, unusual effects, nothing is getting cut. But additionally, note the subtle differentiation between the Man vs. Machine update and the other updates. If a literal developer on the game is psychologically logging these 2 updates into separate folders, I struggle to contest doing the same thing myself.
Yeah,
with this new context in mind,
it's a given with that email, full stop, and then they move on.
Blog post starts to take on a new form. Under the premise of this update being unrelated to the annual Scream Fortress event, asking for maps not to be Halloween themed is just business as usual, exactly in line with what Valve would do traditionally. Now yes, dropping the update...
Again, it'd be so stupid if they just made everything Halloween restricted. They did everything Halloween restricted, and then it went away at the end of Scream Fortress. That would piss off a lot of people. So they're definitely going to pick, I hope, mostly, if not completely unthemed content to put into the game. Yeah.
right around Scream Fortress might seem like a strange, content cannibalizing idea, but this isn't a unique case at all. In 2015, we saw the Invasion update drop on October 6th, and more notably, Jungle Inferno released on October 20th. That's two of the game.
And I think I gotta remind Weezy that Jungle Inferno was greatly delayed. It was supposed to drop in the summer, but then they delayed it, and it got pushed out around Scream Fortress. And then the Scream Fortress update that year suffered for it as well because they only pushed out contracts, I think, if memory serves. And yes, Invasion was delayed as well for petty, greedy reasons, thanks to workshoppers. But I would not rely on old school Valve behavior to predict the order of operations for this update. Again, I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but I think it's going to be mostly all dropped on the same day, if not all dropped on the same day. I don't think it's going to be like part 1, part 2, that kind of thing.
Game's 3 final big years receiving large content updates right in the midst of a Scream Fortress event. Additionally, the blog post concludes by stating that a glimpse of the update could arrive as early as Wednesday, August 27th.
This is so funny because I thought this too. Like, we should, based on this part of the blog post, we should expect some information about this or some piece of this. Like, probably another, it will amount to a blog post, right? It'll amount to another blog post where they're going to outline what the fuck's going on or give a hint, something. That's what's going to happen, right? They said as soon as August 27th, which is just vague enough where if it didn't arrive on August 27th, but it could arrive as soon as, so it could be any point after August 27th and before the MVM update's supposed to come. So it's so funny too, because Reddit, being the cesspool that it is, it's so funny watching a whole bunch of people like puff out their chests like, oh yeah, we're not the stupid ones. We didn't. It's like, hey, how could you have ever interpreted this as a hint that Valve would do something? It's like, how could you ever have thought about this? It's like they explicitly said that they're going to get a little something before the update arrives here, so I find that funny.
And that a second part would arrive right before Halloween. That August 27th date is very noteworthy because that is the explicit deadline given to MVM map creators to submit their missions to the workshop.
Yeah.
Yet somehow we're still due for a tease, a precursor to the update, potentially
Who knows what
this
that
week.
tease is going to be?
This has got to be one of the most surprisingly overlooked parts of the blog post. What could this prelude be alluding to? It's not a new mission. There's just no way. So, bug fixes? Upgrade balance changes? A new menu with a grayed out tour box labeled coming soon? If you want to get really doomer about it, they did use the word could, which is always an easy escape hatch when you overpromise something too early. But there
could just be fucking nothing. That's also very true. It could just be a whole lot of nothing. But like what could it be? Who fucking knows, man? I have no idea. I wouldn't expect anything crazy. They're at most I would expect bug fixes for MVM, because if they're gonna start funneling a whole bunch of people into the game mode, then they probably need to button it up a little bit, because there's a lot wrong with MVM, and if they push out a bunch of fixes for it, that just makes sense. But that's what I would expect to see at most. Or I think Valve isn't so stupid as to give any kind of hint as to what content an update's going to have anymore. They stopped doing that with Jungle Inferno, and that has it so it's been almost a decade. So honestly, I'm kind of leaning towards nothing. I think I'm just leaning towards Valve dropping the update with nothing happening before it. So I'm sick. That's why I sound like this.
One thing we can confirm, nothing like this has ever happened for a glorified Scream Fortress update. Moreover, a 2-month time frame to complete a solid map and missions implemented alongside it is way too short. Missions particularly require a lot of meticulous design and redesign brought about by an abundance of trial and error. 60 days ain't gonna cut it for a new MVM.
No, I think any maps that manage to reach completion and were uploaded to the workshop were only made to look like eye candy, but they play like absolute dick. Having play tested one of them myself, it looks cool, but it plays like shit. So I suspect that the majority of the content is going to be older maps that have been on there, and I really hope Valve doesn't make the consistent mistake of only picking things that look good, please. And I please pray to God Valve actually playtests these things, because it's going to be a shit show if they don't. It's going to be a shit show if they do, but it would be an even bigger shit show if they don't. Oh.
Map. My belief is that this deadline is merely meant as a grace period for already established MVM creators to touch up their previous work before throwing them onto the workshop. Valve have promoted Potato.tf for years, the leading hub for community MVM campaigns, even allowing accompanying medals to make their way into the game. Guys like...
To be fair, it's not that hard to get a medal for something in TF2, and getting put on the community tab on the blog post, like, let us not forget they've previously advertised literal scams on there. No one really this isn't like shitting on Potato.tf, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying there's not a lot of significance when you get a badge in the game or when you get a blog post announcement. He seems to be hinting like, oh, Valve might have a little bias towards the Potato.tf guys. I don't think they will. I don't think they're even aware of what that is. They just copy and paste whatever is sent to them. They skim it for slurs, and then they put it on the blog post page. But I think at most they are aware that content already exists, and that was their announcement to like, hey, brush this up, polish this up, so you can get it ready for acceptance, and then that's it.
Robin Walker, Dave Riller, and even Eric himself have openly played on community missions. On stream, mind you. Valve are well aware of the treasure trove of content that they're missing out on. So if I was a gambling man, which I am, I mean, this is what I'd bet on being the most...
They're not really paying that close attention when they join for those charity events. They grace the event with their presence, and that's about it. I don't think, again, I wouldn't view that. I'm very pessimistic and I'm very cynical, mind you, so take this with a large grain of salt, but I wouldn't view any of that interaction with the community as Valve having any kind of sort of bias or any acknowledgement like, wow, there's a lot of good MVM stuff. It perhaps gives an explanation why they decided to do this update in the first place, because they were exposed to the fact like, oh wow, the community does make a bunch of MVM stuff. But beyond that, I don't know, man. Yeah, they're just participating for the sake of it, not really paying attention. No, it's a smile and wave, kind of like here, like Eric Smith going by on a parade float. You know, hey, it's me, Eric. You know, me, the big guy. And look, it's Jill. It's Jill and Driller. Look, we are everyone's favorite. Yeah.
Most likely outcome. I wish we had more conclusive evidence to go off of, but based on everything presented, this all points towards an update that may borrow some Halloween elements, but is almost entirely unrelated to the Scream Fortress update.
Yeah.
And we don't need to rely on an offhand comment from Eric to solidify that. Now, why does this matter? Well, first, it's worth dispelling the fear that Valve are just gonna import half a dozen buggy missions, throw them into boot camp, and call it a day. Would be very
That's exactly what they're gonna do.
Unbecoming of the much-needed qualifier. But second...
I mean, like, if I was a betting man, if I was a gambling man, all bets on nothing. All bets on nothing. Nothing ever happens. It's going to be a copy and paste job of like 6 maps. They're going to toss them into boot camp, and that's all it's going to be. They're not going to play test anything. They're not going to be any missions. They might have like a single mission per map, something like that, or maybe 2 or 3. But they're not going to fucking always bet on nothing. That's my expectation. If the past 8 years are of any indication, and listen, I am fully justified to have this kind of pessimistic thinking. Trust me. Because of the past 8 years, 10 years, the past 10 years are of any indication, Valve doesn't play test shit. They don't play test anything from the community. They load it up to make sure it doesn't crash the game, and then they leave it at that. So 90% chance it's just a copy and paste job into boot camp. So we shall see. Surprisingly, no, my iliac joints didn't break, but my Toa Hali Mari is in fucking shambles. She's a mess. So curse you, lime green Lego pieces.
It opens up a very interesting question. If the update isn't a Scream Fortress subsidiary, how are workshoppers gonna get paid? The traditional payout method in regards to community
I wonder if he guessed exactly what I'm gonna guess. Okay, let's see if he's gonna post something. I don't know what it is, but my guess is that what they're gonna do, and I said this before on stream, if they're going to monetize the update, it's gonna be a new ticket. Yes, it's gonna be a new ticket. It's gonna be a recolored Tour of Duty ticket that's just gonna say community on it, and then the map makers are gonna get a cut of that revenue. That's my expectation, and that's a really nice, easy, recyclable method for if they have multiple updates, right? If they have multiple MVM updates in the future, it's a nice cookie cutter template. We're like, okay, they just recolor the community Tour of Duty ticket again for the next MVM update, and they just copy and paste it just like they've been doing with the cases year after year. That's fully what I expect if they're going to monetize the update, which again, Valve would have to be retarded if they didn't. So, let's see if Weezy hits on that.
community content is a royalty, a slice of every key sold pertaining to their accompanying cases. Hats, taunts, war paints, unusual effects, everyone's getting a tiny piece of that revenue pie. Included in that list of benefactors, map makers, and this has never not been the case. Now, if the update was related to Scream Fortress, there you go. That's your payout model, easy as that. But under the pretext...
I don't see that happening. I think, I mean, that could happen, where the MVM guys are just gonna get a cut. Are just gonna get a cut of the Scream Fortress key sales. I can fully see that because Valve doesn't care that much about the money from the game. They care more about the economy looking alive and bustling, so it doesn't strike the fear of God into the Counter-Strike and Dota scenes. So, and they usually give about 1% to 2%. Sorry, I forget the exact value. Someone told me directly. I think it was 2%. I think they give 2% of every key sale per individual piece of content, and then they split up that 2% between all of the contributors. So they may just take more out of their cut and give it to the map creators for the MVM content. But again, Valve would have to be very stupid to not monetize the update with a Tour of Duty ticket of some kind, because, I mean, that's just a no-brainer. And I placed my bet a couple weeks ago saying, I fully expect, we'll get to the Aussie stuff in a minute because he's going to touch on that, but they're just going to double the Aussie drop rate. Like, oh, it's exciting, go play the MVM update, you have twice the chance of getting a pan. But they're probably not going to add any new gold guns. But we'll see.
Of this being a detached update, what are they gonna do? Map stamps only? I've been asking around, and literally not one workshopper has been able to confirm that this has happened even once. This means that Valve would need to establish a new revenue model for this new MVM tour. The one I've heard being tossed around is that Valve will likely create a separate MVM ticket specifically pertaining to this brand new Man Up tour, distributing the proceeds as they see fit.
Nailed it.
My intuition is that this will likely be the case. I have yet to hear an argument for why another model would be more preferred. But therein lies the big question on everybody's mind. If Valve are going to add in a new Man Up tour with purchasable tickets, you're gonna need some kind of bangin' ass loot to get people through the door. Of course, I'm talking about the gold, man. The number one thing everyone
again fully expects no new gold guns, and they're just gonna keep the same Australians and maybe double the drop rate and leave it at that. That's my suspicion. And this, of course, all assumes Valve is going to monetize this update to begin with. So, we'll see. We'll see. It's Valve. All bets on nothing. Truthfully, all bets on nothing. My money's on nothing.
Thinks of when they hear new MVM update are the motherfucker.
I will be happily proven wrong. I will happily eat crow if Valve goes beyond the bare minimum of copying and pasting, and that's it. But I'm not holding my breath.
Fucking Australians. Are we getting new ones? Are Valve gonna port over the ones we already have?
Yes.
Is this new tour ditching them entirely and going back to bot killers only?
Please,
well,
no.
We can hopefully scratch off that last one. Before the last...
That would be so insulting if they just recycled bot killers. Imagine if they did that. That would be so... Like, no one would buy into it if they were offering bot killers. I know some people like them a lot. I just think they're shit. And it'll be nuts if Valve decides to use bot killers again. I just can't see it happening. I really can't see it happening. Like because a lot of the bot killers look like shit. The ones that don't are like the knife and the wrench, where you don't have like a dingle dangle dongle hanging off the front of the gun. Those look like crap. But the ones that are like, you know, more contained, compact, those look better. The people who like bot killers are a very small minority. They are a very small minority. So I can't see Valve leaning in that direction. Maybe if they put in the extra effort to split up maps by difficulty, and then whatever is expert or the other one, those will have Aussies, but then the ones that are intermediate or whatever, those might have bot killers, but that would require Valve to playtest things, and I don't think they're going to do that. I think what they're going to do is I think they're just going to make a community category and not give any of them a difficulty rating, and then give all of them the same loot. So that's my suspicion. I can't even see bot killers being the normal reward. I mean, that would make them have to do more work to change how items drop. So I suspect it's just going to be maybe the same stuff from Two Cities, maybe, but like I think they might want to keep that exclusive for kill streak kits and shit. Who knows? Sound off. I hope you're okay and getting better. Thank you. Yeah, just shitty head cold or something. We'll figure it out, or I'll figure it out. I'm going to test if it's COVID later. Your opinions would be a lot easier to swallow. To remind people that most people in Valve only care about new techs over making games, and games are just a source of revenue right now. 100%. I mean, one thing to refute that is Deadlock, but even Deadlock lacks a lot of the innovation and soul and artistry that Valve's original games contained. You know, Half-Life, Portal, Left 4 Dead, TF2, all of that, right? All of the Deadlock is completely devoid of that, and a buddy of mine put it very eloquently, where it looks like he said it looked like this was Richter. He said it looked like blue sky artists, blue sky artwork mixed with like Dota or something like that, something to that effect. And the art is good, like it's good artwork. The character designs are cool. There's no refuting that, but it's just such a strange mishmash of characters and visuals that it's not a nice, thought out, cohesive package. They're exclusively making characters to look good and be marketable first instead of making a cohesive game. I understand the game is not finished. I understand that completely. But they recently did an update where there was a massive visual overhaul, or not a massive visual overhaul, but they tweaked some things visually. And I think they're kind of sitting with and staying with what they have, and it's just messy. It's not cohesive, and I think people are already growing accustomed to a lot of the characters they have now. I think they'll change them a little bit, but not too much. But I think it's going to stick with. I think it's going to stick with what we have, or they're going to stick with what they have rather. Deadlock looks AI generated. I mean, there's a reason for that. There was an interview with one of the developers of Deadlock. It's entirely in Russian, so you'll have to turn subtitles on or look for a translation. But there was an interview with a Deadlock dev who says they were using AI as inspiration for their characters and for their art. So, shocker, a lot of what's being made inside of Deadlock is truly uninspired. Like, to its core, uninspired. They type a prompt, AI spits it out, and then they use that as a springboard to fully flesh out and design a character, right? Like you know it's bad. I'm not bullshitting you. This is true. This interview is on YouTube. But yeah, I mean that's why Deadlock looks the way it does. I mean the final designs aren't purely AI slot, but I mean you say make me a man that looks like a man made out of spark plugs. And then you get the guy that looks like spark plugs, and then they, flesh out the design more and make it a little bit more unique. But like none of their designs come from true inspiration. It comes entirely, I assume, not entirely, but a good piece of it comes from AI, which is really sad because You think about Half-Life and TF2 and Portal, all of these things came from in here and inspiration from what's around them, right? That is creativity. That's innovation. That's ingenuity, right? That's some amazing creative power that Valve used to have. And all of those guys aren't at Valve anymore, or they fired them. And they've been replaced by, you know, Twitter artists, effectively, or Blue Sky artists. It is a little sad. I apologize for the non-MVM related tangent, but this goes back into feeding that Valve isn't that interested in working on games. They're more interested in tech, and they're using their games more so as a way to make money to fund their tech projects. Another one seems like it's going to be they're making another console for some reason. You think that they would have learned their lesson the first time, but they didn't, and they're trying again, which I can't fucking believe, really. You're going for an in-home console again when the era of the console is effectively dead. Because what do we have? We have the Switch, which remains king, the PlayStation, which has no games, and what's going on with Microsoft. So, yeah, and they're really pushing Steam OS too. They really want a Steam OS machine. So, thoughts on the new TF game? I don't know why people think there's going to be a new TF game. It's undeniable that Valve is messing around with TF related stuff, but that doesn't mean they're making a new game. Richter put this very well. He said, just because an artist picked up a pencil doesn't mean that there's going to be an end product, right? Like, it ultimately doesn't mean anything. Like, so people taking... I fucking hate when Tyler does this. Oh my fucking god, it drives me up a wall. He's been doing this for years, making these crazy assumptions and planting this thought in people's heads. Like, there's, like, the chances of there being a TF3 or, like, a spiritual successor to Team Fortress 2, like, there's no evidence for that, right? There's only evidence that Valve is messing with things with TF in the code and what have you. And there's nothing else beyond that. And even if Valve was actually making a spiritual successor to Team Fortress 2, all of the people that made Team Fortress 2 are gone. Like, all of the people that made Team Fortress 2 special are not there anymore. We have Robin Walker, Dave Riller, who are both coders, not game designers, coders, and then Jill. All the artists, all the writers, all the creative types, they're gone. So, yeah. Robin Walker does not deserve the praise he gets. There are reasons for that will come to light in the future.
Update was unveiled, Valve decided to add a 7-day trading restriction to the Golden Pan. What the fuck? Why? The Golden Pan has been in the game since the Two Cities update over 12 years ago. And now, over a decade later, we're getting a trade restriction added out of nowhere? It seems to me that Valve are heavily anticipating a larger surplus of Golden Pan drops brought about by an increase of activity within the paid version of the game mode. I mean,
that's the expectation. Valve adds a week-long cooldown to a week-long trading cooldown for the Golden Pan. The expectation is that they're going to be the exclusive rare drop for the MVM update, or to be even more pessimistic, maybe like a kid reached out and like, hey, I got scammed. I didn't know this was so expensive. And Valve decided to, in order to not have to deal with Timmy getting scammed, they decided to add a trading cooldown, which just so happened to coincide with the announcement of this update. But I mean, maybe they'll put gold pans as the drop again. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. They probably realized that just now that people are getting scammed out of gold pans, so they implemented that in response. That's what I think too. If I'm gonna be as pessimistic as possible, which here I am, you know, Mr. Negative. What's a boy's name? That's Negative Norman. Me being Negative Norman. I am not a Nancy, I'm a Norman. That's what I think.
Very hard to believe that all of this is just a coincidence. If the pan's on the table, the likelihood that traditional Australians are as well is pretty damn high. The main question is whether or not we're getting new golden goodies or rehashing old ones. From a monetary point of view, the obvious answer is to drop us a new batch. But it's also the obvious answer to finally give us strange versions of the Jungle Inferno weapons, and Valve are about 3,000 days late to that call. This is why
It's so easy. It is so easy just to do it. Seriously, it's so easy just to make new fucking guns. Like, just it's like the work has been done. The work is being done for you, Valve. Or you can do it yourself. It's just not that fucking hard. It really isn't. Just do it, please. It's like, oh my God. I mean, it would be for the first time in a decade that, or almost a decade, that Valve is adding Valve-made items to the game, which they have not done since 2017. So, if the past 8 years are of any indication, they're not going to do that, but could be pleasantly surprised. Who knows? I would like to see strange versions of the Jungle Inferno weapons. I think that would be really cool. And that's so easy to do. Just make a new item instance, put it in a fucking box, make people open it. That's all you have to do. It's so easy. It makes me so fucking mad that they haven't done it yet. Oh. Strange Second Banana, Strange Dragon's Fury. All the other ones too. Who gives a fuck about the gas passer and the jetpack and the hot hand? But I'll take a Dragon's Fury and I'll take a banana. It's just, come on. Wouldn't the new guns be more valuable than golden pans due to how supply works? No, golden pans are extremely rare and extremely valuable and extremely liquid. Not to mention their drop rates are way lower than normal Australiums. So in a very short period of time, assuming they give new Australiums the same drop rate, a whole lot more of those are going to come into existence than pans. So for a brief period of time, they're going to be, very valuable relative to normal Australian weapons we already have. But then very quickly the value is going to taper off and decay into something more reasonable. I mean, you see this happen with every update we get with a new unusual effect. We're like, whoa, this hat with this epic effect, and some idiot buys it for $500, and then 2 weeks later it's worth $50. So.
Been very hesitant to treat new Australiums like a foregone conclusion. A bunch of fancy reskins would give TF2 the highest ROI they've seen in years for comparatively not that much work at all, but despite that, their current...
Even if they add new Australiums, I can't see that many people slogging through MVM tours. I can't see it happen. Someone said I look really American. Bit rude to Twitter Blue Sky since they grift against AI. Well, Blue Sky sucks, so I'm going to shit on Blue Sky. You look like a Vietnam War soldier right now. I guess so. Nancy left me for Positive Paul. It seems opposites attract after all. You know what? The notion that opposites attract is bullshit. And if you believe that, then run from whoever you're dating. Birds of a feather flock together, and that's reality.
Current status remains tentative at best. Many people have viewed Australiums as officially deconfirmed after Eric's email response was circulated. But to be fair, the language he uses is very vague and...
I don't have an answer for you about other content. Currently, we're only calling for maps and missions. So, of course, they leave it open-ended because they don't want to give an actual answer, because if they did, then it would either set expectations high or immediately gut any kind of excitement this update's going to have. It's like, oh yeah, we're not putting gold guns. Well, fuck it. It's dead. No one's going to give a shit. But, if we don't have an answer, well, there still could be gold guns. So that lets hype build. It lets hype build. Yeah. A very corporate response to dodging questions. Yes, that's corpo speak.
Inconclusive. If Valve were planning on adding new Australiums, the email would likely read the exact same way, so I don't view this as concrete proof of anything specifically. I do wonder why Valve would neglect to mention the existence of Australiums anywhere on the blog post if it was such a sure thing on being added, though.
I like how the closed captioning says Australians and dismisses the existence of Australians and not Australians. Australia's not real. The people that live there aren't real. Sydney
Seems
is
like
gone.
an obvious hype maneuver. I hope that Valve recognized that when TF2 players hear much needed MVM update, they think Australiums. Not maps, not robots, definitely not bot killers.
It's just true.
Australium weapons.
It's just true.
Worst case
That's what people
scenario,
think about.
we just get the old ones ported over. But fuck me if that wouldn't be such a wasted opportunity. This is a core tenet of the MVM
lazy.
ecosystem that everyone intuitively understands. Loot is what dictates player behavior. People can say they play man-up mode for fun all they want, but stated and revealed preferences are two very different things. I don't understand the obsession.
I only play MVM when I'm doing man-up mode because I want something for my fucking time. I want something. Like if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna spend the $3 to buy my tickets so I can get something in return. Sorry. Otherwise, I get nothing in return. So.
People have with treating the joy of spinning roulette wheels as
Like I'm sorry. PvE game modes or PvE games kind of need that. DRG handles it very well, where you need rewards to progress with weapon upgrades and cosmetics and everything else, and that like all that shit is needed in a PvE game. TF2s are purely cosmetic though, and like it's fun, like MVM can be fun, but the problem with MVM is that it's so repetitive. I mean, you do it once, you've experienced all there is to experience. You have to go out of your way to play differently in order to experience MVM differently. Otherwise, it's the same missions, it's the same waves, there's nothing changes, right? Whereas the normal game in Team Fortress 2, even though the maps are the same, because you're always coming across different team compositions, then every experience on Upward or Sawmill is different every time you play. So yeah, so you need some kind of incentive for people to come back and play the same shit over and over and over and over again. Because even if you mix it up with class compositions, there's only so many you can do before you're not going to win anymore. So MVM to me is like a fairground. I pay for some fun and maybe some reward and the occasional crackhead yelling at bystanders. Dude, you really want me... I want a funnel cake now. I want a funnel cake. I really, really want a funnel cake because that is my go-to carny food. I fucking love it. I'm actually really hungry right now. I'm gonna get a snack after I'm done here.
as if it's a mode of entertainment that's beneath them. Are we really gonna sit here and pretend that Two Cities is 80 times more fun than Steel Trap? Get fucking real. The same reason people binge man up mode is the same reason Nevada doesn't have a state income tax. One day MVM players will start being honest with themselves. The results are crystal fucking clear. If your loot is shitty, so are your player numbers. Valve need to recognize that the player base are gonna go where the getting's good, and failure to account for this could have serious ramifications on the game mode long term. In fact,
I just don't think Valve cares though. I just think they're so lazy. I just think they're gonna piss it out. They're gonna piss it out, and they're gonna leave it at that. Yeah. Hope I'm wrong.
In fact, I would argue there's one pivotal decision that Valve need to make correctly should they go out of their way to add a new batch of golden weapons. Do not share the Australium loot pools. One of the biggest fears a lot of MVM players have regarding the update is...
Oh, they'll do that. They will 100% do that. I got an Aussie. Aw, fuck, it's an SMG. I got an Aussie. Aw, fuck, it's a Blutsaga. You gotta go again. Go back in for another ride. $4 more, please. Then you might get the new gold gun next time. You know for a fact that they're going to do that. They are 100% going to do that. If they put gold guns in, new gold guns, they will 100% share the same loot pool with the other Aussies. That wouldn't encourage players to play the new missions if they did that. I disagree. I think it's going to be an even bigger hook because the potential is still there. It's like, oh, I didn't get one. I mean, here's the thing, man. You already don't get Aussies 98% of the time. And then you catch a fish. You're sitting there with your line cast. Your line is cast. You're casting and casting and casting. You get a bite. Oh, I got a bite. Oh, the fish is small. But man, that dopamine rush was awesome. I got to cast it again. Oh, I got a bite. Oh, a little bit bigger fish this time. Fuck it. Got to cast it again. playing with that dopamine, man. Guaranteed they're gonna keep the same. They're guaranteed they're gonna mix loot pools if they add new Aussies.
Whether or not this new tour will invalidate content from years past, this worry isn't without merit.
I've not played many community MVM maps or campaigns, so honestly, I don't have an answer.
In fact, Valve had this very exact thing happen during 2013 when Two Cities first dropped. It was the only tour in the game that had access to those coveted Australian weapons, and this drastic discrepancy in loot value resulted in the widespread abandonment of every other tour in the game.
Shocker.
Valve would recognize that this distribution was extremely unhealthy, so they opted to port over the new Australian drops to the other tours around a year later. This was a great call on Valve's end.
Not all of them, not all of them. Some of them, not all of them.
Content to be viable for Australian farming beyond Two Cities. Robot parts and fabricators are still MIA, but 2 out of the 4 advanced tours are only composed of 3 missions. So porting those over to Mecha and Gear Grinder would result in the permanent
gambling optimization. 3 missions instead of 4. More chances to get that gun. Oh, they are 100% mixing loot pools. 100% if they add new guns.
Invalidation of Two Cities as a tour. The same problem, just in the opposite direction.
People still grind 2 shitties.
So, if porting over the Australians was an
because 2 shitties also can give you expensive killstreak kits.
Undeniable benefit of the prior content, why am I advocating not to port over the Australian loot pools if it helped revitalize prior tours in the past? Well, because it would do the exact opposite.
I don't
One
agree
of
at
the
all.
tricky variables that Valve need to account for
all.
is that most of the community-made missions are pretty short compared to Valve standards. This isn't a negative, by the way. In fact, in many ways, it's a conduit for why community MVM missions have the positive reputations that they do. Look, I love Valve missions, I play them all the time, but goddamn, do they have pacing issues, and a lot of them. Be it padding.
Well, that's if the pacing issue in that the bots would just like load in and move when they're supposed to, that would cut down on time. But also, a lot of MVM tours, they are a slog. They're fucking long. Oh my god! If you want to do a full tour of 2 cities, at least you got to have 3 hours. I'm an old man. I can't play any video game for 3 hours straight anymore.
The mission with a bunch of robot filler to artificially lengthen the waves, or endless periods of downtime where you're just waiting on robots to drop down from the front. This type of mission padding is rightfully viewed as poor design from the community MVM scene, and over the years, there's been enough cultural conditioning to broadly discourage it. In addition to better wave pacing, most maps have adopted the Rottenberg style of dropping an upgrade station near the front lines. This expedites the upgrade purchasing process, and in doing so, leads to faster F4s all around, once again lessening downtime. Potato.tf would also recommend much shorter mission timeframes to bolster their eligibility for their community campaigns.
Yeah.
Again, this isn't a bad thing. The robot layouts are a lot more compact, more wheat, less chaff. This is much more pronounced on the
Agreed.
lower difficulty levels. Intermediate missions tend to run around 20 to 25 minutes, advanced around 30 to 35, though keep in mind that the competency of the community MV.
So like when it comes to playing the normal video game, generally people want longer periods of playtime. So if you're going over the 25-minute mark on your time spent in a vanilla TF2 server, if you're going over the 25-minute mark, which is rare to begin with, very rare actually if the data I'm looking at are of any indication, that's like the good sweet spot for like your normal game beginning to end fulfilling play session of TF2. But when it comes to MVM, I think a lot of people look at a full tour as a full play session, not just an individual mission. So they think about completing a tour. So if you're pushing the 1 to 2 hour mark to finish a full tour, it's a big turnoff for people that just want to come home and unwind after a day like at work or school or what have you, which is what most people do when they play video games. Unless you're unemployed. So generally shorter missions and therefore shorter overall tours would indeed be more appreciated than something that takes 3 hours and with mildly competent players. So
MVM mission groups is usually much higher. This discrepancy in time investment, both among community missions and when contrasted to Valve missions, presents a very unfortunate situation for Valve. They either make a
Do people not spread out tours over multiple sessions? So generally, no. If you're insane and you decide to solo queue, then yeah. But if you're playing with friends, you have to organize time to play with your friends. You want to get the most time out of it. You want to get the full tour done, because when are you guys going to meet again? See you in a week. If people have a normal 9 to 5 work schedule, that kind of thing. You're insane if you solo queue, by the way. So, yeah, generally I think most people would prefer to complete a full tour in one sitting and then spread it out across multiple days.
Mission man-up tour that takes a lot less time to complete due to the shorter mission lengths, or they can make a 5 to 6 mission tour depending on the difficulty level, but that means forcing the player base to buy extra tickets in order to fully complete each mission.
Yeah, solo queue is awful, because it's just, you don't know who you're going to get put with. You don't know if they're going to be competent players. You don't know if they're going to be fucking assholes that are only there to grind for Aussies with 2,000 tours, and they'll scream the N-word at you. So,
let's imagine a scenario where Valve decide to merge the Australium loot pools. You can get the Gen 1 Australiums on the new content and the hypothetical Gen 2 Australiums on the old content. Well, now that you've equalized the output...
Oh, that's what he means. Okay, yeah, if they do that, that's stupid. Then people will have no incentive to go and learn the new maps. They'll just play the old ones. So, no. I mean, I suspect that they'll merge the old Aussies with the new Aussies only on the new maps, but they're not going to backport the new Aussies into older maps. That is stupid. That I agree with. That will absolutely kill any and all traffic into the new maps, because they'll just grind the old ones they're already familiar with. And the metas have already been figured out. It's already optimized. Yeah, they won't do that. But they will absolutely mix the loot pools on the new maps and the new maps only.
All attention will shift towards the input. How much time and how much money are you giving up to get a spin at the wheel? Remember, loot dictates player behavior. If the new Man Up tour is 4 missions long, say goodbye to 2 cities for life, alongside every other tour for that matter. The faster mission times will let players farm the same loot for the same price while shaving off a third of the time investment.
I think it's going to be the other way around. I think because they've already figured out how to grind these tours, they're not going to bother figuring out metas for new ones.
Would immediately displace every other tour in the game into a pit of irrelevance. You wanted Halloween maps? There's your fucking graveyard.
Honestly, that's going to happen anyways, because people are only going to be interested in the new stuff primarily, and then maybe your typical, 30 guys are going to go back to grinding 2 cities. So, no matter how you slice it, the content that's already been here for 12 years, it's already dead. Barely anyone plays MVM to begin with, 500 people on a regular basis, peak player counts on a weekend. Already not that many. And it's effectively dead in the grand scheme, right? So it's going to die when the new content comes out. And then it might see some rebound once the novelty wears off, and once everyone realizes these aren't fucking play tested because they aren't Valve made and it's going to fucking suck, then they'll go back to 2 cities. But while the novelty is big and bright, 2 shitties will be dead.
Alternatively, if the new tour is 6 missions long, you may have equalized the time investment, but you made it cost $6 for a full completion instead of 4. Congratulations, you just butchered your new tour right out of the womb. No one is going to pay a 50% premium to farm the same drops as another tour.
Oh, for sure.
There's a theoretical tightrope Valve can walk where both the price of admission and completion times are relatively equalized compared to 2 cities, but does anyone trust Valve to stick that landing? I don't. My main concern here...
They're not gonna fuck up they won't fuck up the loot pools if they add new guns. One thing Valve is very good at doing is taking your money and figuring out the best way to do that through gambling. They're not that stupid. Valve isn't that stupid. They're lazy, but they're not stupid. So they're absolutely not going to backport new Aussies into old maps. They're not stupid. They know exactly what to do to get the most money out of you via gambling. So I don't think that's going to happen.
is that Valve have PTSD from the mass tour cleansing they pulled back in 2013 and might believe that merging
Anyone that was working on that isn't at Valve anymore, so I don't even think that's a concern.
loot pools once again would prevent another replication of that event. But that misses the point as to why the problem ever existed in the first place. The issue with the other MVM tours wasn't that they didn't drop Australiums. The issue was that the loot that they did have, bot killers, are dangly little ballsack weapons and nobody cares about them.
Yeah,
Apathy does not breed desire, it just breeds more apathy. Australian weapons, even 12 years after release, do not have this problem. Prices have remained stable for literal years despite the supply of weapons increasing day after day. And the reason for that is TF2 players like Australiums. That's really all there is to it. Especially when you consider that many of them are tied to very popular and/or iconic weapons, demand always catches up eventually. I think we can all understand that upon this new tour's release, every other MVM map will be barren for a while. This is an inevitability, and most players are completely fine with that. However, that only serves to improve the longevity of the old tours over time. If everyone's off farming the new Australiums and new Australiums only, what do you think happens to the old ones? Basic economics. Supply gets constrained, prices go up, and rewards.
Thing is, man, the guys that are grinding the MVM tours, they're going for the pan. That's what they want, is they want a pan. At the end of the day, they want the high dollar item. So what he said earlier about the time investment thing, if they end up putting a pan as a potential drop in the new missions and they require less tickets and less time, then they'll absolutely start grinding those instead. But we'll see.
For playing the old tours become more valuable. This creates added incentive for MVM players to go back and run that old school content. This issue will quite literally solve it.
I cannot see them retiring the old Australiums. That would piss people off, actually. Like, Valve hasn't, I mean, they consistently retire unusual effects and hats by kind of phasing in a new box 3 times a year. But if they decide to phase out items that have been available to drop for over a decade, that'll make people really fucking pissed off. I can't see that happening.
Itself and create a healthy long-term player distribution as long as Valve doesn't port over the loot pools. Every tour will serve a purpose. The new one is where you farm the new Australiums. 2 cities is where you farm the old ones with the tertiary loot that increases the overall ROI, and Gear Grinder and Mecha Engine are where you go to farm the fastest Gen 1 lever pulls at the expense of overall profitability. If you actually give people reasons to seek out the new content and the legacy content, both of them will remain alive and well. If you want to port over the robot parts and killstreak kits, I don't have a problem with that personally, but the big ticket items need to be separated. Let's also not forget the benefits beyond keeping old content relevant.
If they do it.
Imagine running this new tour for the new Australian weapons, and you get one that's already been in the game for a decade already. That'd be a huge letdown.
Yeah, and then you'll do it again. Because you got the dopamine, and then you get the letdown, and then you'll do it again. Man, if any Counter-Strike YouTubers have any indication as to how people approach gambling in these video games, even if just the shit I watch these guys do is insane. These guys will open thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of fucking Counter-Strike cases, and then when they see that little gold icon, and then it's a $40 knife, or like an $80 knife. They get the shot of dopamine, and then it ends up being shit. But then what do? They go right back to it. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. And here comes the gold. Gold. Oh, how many videos have you seen like that? Seriously, how many Counter-Strike unboxing videos have you seen like that? Gold. Oh. And they get mad. They slam their desk like, oh, the knife is shit. Wow, boo-hoo. I wasn't given my investment on return. Yeah, they'll just do the same shit here.
Additionally, it also safeguards prior content if the new map additions aren't anybody's cup of tea. If the update ends up being a dud, at the very least it doesn't come at the expense of old content getting invalidated. It's a win-win situation for literally everyone involved, and I seriously hope that Valve go in this direction, provided they actually decide to add new Australiums at all. This is all based on a hypothetical. On a personal note, I think a 6-mission tour mirroring the difficulty found in 2 cities would be most optimal, given how short those missions of a equivalent difficulty tend to be on community servers. But we do run into the problem of those $1 ticket costs adding up extremely fast. To counteract this, I say drop the new tickets down to 50 cents a piece. That way the price of admission doesn't act as a massive...
You are daft if Valve's going to cut the price of tickets in half. With transaction fees, you got to understand credit card transaction fees. If you make an item worth 50 cents, Valve will see no money from that because the transaction fees will take like fucking a quarter, if not more, away from that. They got to keep it at $1. There's no way it's going to go to 50 cents. Are you kidding? Not a chance in hell. That's nice. I wouldn't mind having to spend less, but they're not going to do that.
Barrier to entry in relation to other tours. I'm not convinced that literally any of this is on Valve's radar at all, but that also applied to the upgrade blocking bots, air blast griefing, and the Coal Town mission exploit. And all of you got those patched up very quickly when my community started talking about them. I'd urge all of you to do the same for this issue, because it's...
I wonder if those fixes were pushed on GitHub and then Valve copied and pasted them in. I suspect that's what happened. Whatever bug fixes Valve pushes these days have to be fed through the GitHub first. So,
incredibly important. This leads us to another large discrepancy between Valve MVM and Community MVM. Mission difficulty. This is where another...
Valve is not going to playtest shit. Valve is not going to playtest shit. I am willing to bet a lot. I need another bet to place on this one, where there is not a chance in hell that Valve is going to playtest any of this. None. They're going to boot it up. They're going to see if it works, and then, as they always do, they are going to use us as the playtesters. And for the first couple of weeks, they're going to iron out the kinks based on all of our feedback, and then whatever's broken is going to get fixed, and then it's going to move on from there. They are not going to playtest this, and they are not going to give it a difficulty rating. I am willing to bet shitloads of money, if I had shitloads of money, on the fact that they are going to put all of these new maps into a community tab or a community section with no difficulty rating whatsoever, because they're not going to playtest them. I will bet money that they're not going to.
Fortunate problem.
Yeah, it's going to be community difficulty, 100%. I said this like a month ago, or like 2 months ago.
Itself. The community mission player base exhibits a much higher skill level on average compared to that of your average Valve mission player base. As a result, community missions often account for that heightened skill distribution whenever labeling their mission difficulties. And that leads to some missions being wildly inconsistent with what falls under the bounds of Valve's difficulty settings.
They're just not going to do it. That you've already outlined more than enough reason for Valve to not give it any kind of difficulty rating. None whatsoever.
Intermediates are closer to Valve Advanced, Community Advanced is closer to...
Is it possible for workshoppers to intentionally put bugs in their maps so they'll grind loot faster? No, because if it's found out that they did that, they will get banned off the workshop and they will earn no money from Valve ever again. They're not that stupid. Like, people have tried in the past to do shady shit, and they got rightly punished, and if they still want Valve to keep feeding them and paying their bills and not just living off neat bucks, then they need to not bite the hand that feeds them and try any kind of crazy bullshit like that. I mean, we saw what happened when someone tried to slip some messages into a purchasable cosmetic. Valve went, don't do that. So they test lines, they test boundaries, but Valve is very quick at going, no, don't do that.
Valve Expert and
they don't want to push it because if they get banned, they get no money.
Community Expert is more difficult than anything you'll find in the base game, including Wave 666 for that matter. This one will probably get me in trouble, but I think it's best that every single community mission with an expert label should be ineligible for inclusion, at least for an official man-up tour.
Like, community difficulty ratings are... Valve doesn't know. Valve doesn't know what these things mean to them. They're completely arbitrary. So...
way too far beyond the scope of what new missions should provide for the average TF2 player, and I don't think even entertaining the possibility is warranted. I know a lot of hardcore MVM players like brawling their way through Hellzone missions, but this update isn't made for you. It's made for everybody. And to provide the most value for the most amount of people, the content should be
They're not gonna pick ass rape difficulty maps and missions for this update. But then again, they're not gonna playtest anything. So I have a nagging suspicion that we're gonna get at least one ass rape map in this MVM update, and people are gonna bitch, and then Valve's gonna have to figure out how to not make an ass rape difficulty. Because again, they're not gonna playtest anything. We are going to playtest everything for them.
Accessible and widely palatable to TF2 players of all stripes. That doesn't mean give us a baby-proof idle rock mission or something like that, but simply maintaining the same standard of difficulty we see in the base game today is the safest bet we could possibly take.
This all assumes Valve is going to test anything. You'd think a competent game company would do this, but Valve has shown us that they're not very competent when it comes to their games these days, so community difficulty.
The number one source of conflict in pretty much any multiplayer game is always tied down to how much one person wants a thing and how hard your teammates...
It's gonna be a shit show, man. It is really gonna be a shit show because we know Valve's not gonna playtest anything. And when this update comes out, aside from the inevitable bugs, aside from the game crashes, aside from like missing textures and other catastrophic failures that are going to be shipped with these maps that Valve's going to have to patch out, they're not going to play test the difficulties at all. So we are going to be diving in and testing these difficulties, and then is Valve going to make the fixes? Is Valve going to go in and adjust the missions and the waves? Fuck no. They're going to have to wait for the community to submit fixes for that to happen. And then the community is going to have to figure out, okay, was this too hard? Was this too easy? It's going to be like 2 or 3 weeks of balancing this stuff in order for it to be playable. Like they're not going to test shit. It's going to be like a solid month of back and forth fixing and tweaking, and it's going to be like for the first week, if the implementation of Versus Saxton Hale was of any indication, the first week's basically going to be unplayable because of how buggy or fucked up the balancing is going to be. Right? For the first week, you're not going to be able to touch this new MVM content. Maybe by week 2, week 3, then it will be playable and functional, but even then, there's no way the balancing is going to be sorted out in the first week or two. It's going to be at least a month, right? Because we're the playtesters now. And if you don't believe that we're the playtesters, just go look at the summer update. The fucking abysmal map that was Demolition is dog shit. And they pushed out a laundry list of changes after it was playtested en masse by the entire player base. We are the playtesters now. We've been the playtesters for years. And Valve doesn't give a shit because it doesn't matter. We're still going to play it anyway. All the pay pigs are still going to open hundreds of cases when these updates come out. All these guys are still going to grind these MVM missions even if the difficulty's ass. If not, fuck it, they'll just go back to 2 cities. Same thing happened with Zombie Infection too. Given the selection process of you-know-who, of choosing whatever is on the front of the workshop, the maps I've seen on there are the usual casual slop of looks pretty, plays like shit. I mean, yeah, that's just a given. Like Eric Smith only picks what he thinks looks good and what looks fun, and quality of playtime be damned. So, we'll see. 5 million Sentry Busters. Yeah, a whole wave of that. A whole wave of those would be kind of funny. Completely forgot about Zombie Infection. Yeah, Zombie Infection was a broken mess for like almost at least a week, if memory serves, when the update came out. And then like they were tweaking balancing with Versus Saxton Hale and Zombie Infection. They're still doing it. Like I think even recently they're still getting fixes and adjustments because the balancing is ass. Fucking community members can't balance game modes in TF2. They can't even make a competent game. So naturally, the balancing of these things is going to be raw dog shit. It's going to push people away because they suck. Like they're a fun novelty for 2 seconds, but if you're paying attention for more than 20 minutes, like, wow, what the fuck? This is broken or lame. This isn't fun. I'm out of here. So we'll see if that happens with the MVM stuff too.
are preventing you from getting it. This is largely why Bootcamp has shirked a lot of the MVM toxicity allegations. Nothing to gain, nothing to lose. Lower stakes means lower conflict. It's also why Man Up mode has actually gotten less toxic over the years as well. The community missions got easier, the player base got better.
Something tells me it's going to be closer to MVM release, and the MVM and the matchmaker is going to shit the bed. Oh, 100, like Weezy's going to get to this. The matchmaker, none of this matters. The quality of the content doesn't matter. Play testing doesn't matter. Australians don't matter. None of this matters if you can't even get into a server. And because man versus machine piggybacks off the same game coordinator as casual mode, and this is going to release during Scream Fortress, with over 180 maps in the rotation, it's going to fucking break. You're not going to be able to play TF2 at all if Valve does nothing about the matchmaking system. Because not only are all these players going to be funneling into the Scream Fortress maps to finish their contracts, but you're going to have a shitload of people going over into man versus machine. Like active peak player counts in TF2, just going off SteamDB, are like 55,000. And that's assuming everyone's playing casual mode, which they're not, and everyone is, human, which they're not. Half of that, if not a little bit less than half, are playing in community servers, right? So we have, 20,000 people to work with? 25,000 maybe on a good day? Spreading that small of a player pool, that thin, across all these maps, across MVM, the matchmaking system consistently keeps breaking every time Valve keeps adding more content. That's happened twice now. It happened last year for Scream Fortress, it happened for summer, and it's going to happen again. It is going to be a fucking shit show. You're not going to be able to play the MVM content. I fucking bet. It will take a shitload of time to get into any server if Valve does nothing about the matchmaking system. So that's why the quality of the content and the difficulty and the Aussies, none of that fucking matters if they don't address the matchmaking system. It's going to be a fucking disaster. He's going to get to that in a minute.
And the shiny loot became more mundane. The byproduct of this was an overall reduction in tension between players. Not to say that dickbags in MVM don't exist. They do. But as each year goes by, those players tend to become less and less prominent. Now let's imagine a world where Valve do add in Australian weapons, creating a massive collective desire among the player base, and pair that with a series of incredibly difficult missions with meta-breaking strategies forced onto a population of mostly inexperienced players. Oh yeah, the hyenas would be out for blood. All of this to say, if you dangle
who gives a shit about toxic people, man? Just fucking mute them. And if they leave, someone else is going to get put in, assuming the matchmaking system works. Like, who gives a fuck? There's toxic people in every game. There's toxic people in normal TF2. Like, every other server I get into, someone's being a dick. It's just fucking online video games, man. It just comes with it. No system is going to be fixed if it doesn't make money. I mean, the game will earn Valve no money if people can't play it. Like, this is a spicy take, and this will probably get people bad, but the matchmaking system is a much bigger problem than the bot crisis would ever be. Because at least with bots, you could still get into a server and shoot things. Kicking bots, shooting other people, at least that's playing the video game, right? At least that's playing the video game. You're in a server. But if you can't even get into a server, uh-oh. That's bad. You can't play the game at all? Ooh. That's going to be a shit show. So, not to mention the matchmaking system directly facilitated the bot crisis. So, is Valve going to do anything? A toxic player will try to kick you? Kick them back. Fuck them.
Toys in front of a bunch of TF2 players, you're gonna get people elbowing their mom in the face to get them quicker. A mission's difficulty is what defines the necessary amount of competence needed to get things done. The higher that bar is, the higher percentage of groups that won't meet it. And we all know how MVM players can get about that.
Figure it out.
Let's just acknowledge this right now. Launch week for the update is gonna be a fucking mess. And
launch month. It's gonna be more than a week, Weezy. A week is very conservative. It's gonna be a shit show for a month.
Balance is no exception to that. The dissonance between Valve missions and community missions is so large that there's no way they're gonna get everything right on the first try. Fortunately for us, not only are the MVM community creators willing to nerf their missions if they're deemed too challenging, but many of them have been proactive in rebalancing them to be more in line with what Valve's looking for in the base game. Adding on to this, Valve are no stranger.
But Valve just has to pick them first. First of all, they have to pick them. And then if any fixes are still needed, it has to go through the entire process of fixing it, then submitting it to Valve, then Valve pushing out the update. It's going to be more than a week.
To rebalancing missions themselves.
I am so curious as to how much of a shit show this update's going to be. Like, people are already bored. People are already tired, more so now than ever before, of the status quo TF2's been in. We saw this increasingly so with this past summer update, where it was received overwhelmingly with a lack of fanfare or apathy or people just calling it mediocre. Like, we are already tired of what we normally get. If they drop the ball with this MVM update, it's going to be really bad. Like, TF2's player counts have been going down consistently for a few years now. If they fuck up this update, which they will, I think even more people are going to leave. Because, like, this is, I know I'm not the only one. This is like, a lot of people are viewing this as like a last chance. All right, we'll give it one more chance. One more try. The long-term veterans that are still holding out, this is gonna bomb, and then they're out. Only the new people, the new blood, who don't really think too deeply about the content and games they consume are gonna stick around. Single toxic player can continuously ruin the game by pushing the bomb to the hatch or straight up bug the bomb to never leave bot spawn. Well, hopefully Valve will fix a bug that'll make them lock down a mission. Or you can also just kick the single toxic player. Ideally, that'll make it easier for them to do, but we'll see what happens when all this comes out. I have a nagging suspicion that the overall player density is going to be a lot higher, so the number of toxic people is going to get thinned out. Hopefully that'll happen. And the rejoin bullshit, hopefully they fix that too. But this assumes Valve is going to do any kind of bug fixes or any kind of improvements, which will be shocking if they do. I have no expectations. Zero. I'm sorry. I know I'm a negative Norman, but I am not. I got no expectations. I really don't.
Themselves in the name of accessibility. So if both players and mission creators want those tuning kinks ironed out, the odds of Valve complying with that are pretty damn high. You don't even need to nerf the robot layouts either. You could also buff the credit pools to give each team member more upgrades per wave. This would only really apply to missions that don't have their main balancing mechanisms tied to absurd credit numbers, but most of them have enough room to allow for extra player buffs without getting too bloated. Simple number tweaks in either direction could easily weed out any balancing issues very quickly. So while I predict a shaky start, eventually the plane will be landed. Personally, I think both community intermediate and community...
They'll get the plane on the ground. Whether or not the landing gear is still going to be attached to it, that's going to remain to be seen. I know I'm negative, but it's going to be such a fucking mess. It's going to be such a mess, dude. Oh, man.
The advanced missions should be on the table for a base game release. Anything else should be left off the table. As for the actual substance behind the new content, this is an area where I'm nowhere near as concerned as a lot of players, at least pertaining to the supply side of quality missions to choose from. Demand is a different story. There's been a lot of hootin' and hollerin' about how the MVM update is gonna blow cock because Valve are relying on community-created content. I can only assume the people making these criticisms have never once played a custom mission in their life. I don't know where this idea came from.
Weezy's right. There is a lot of really good custom maps out there. The problem is that they're old. And they're not going to be on the front pages of the workshop because they don't have a popularity boost. All of the maps that were released and pushed out there, they got a shitload of traction right around that deadline, those are the ones that are going to have the most visibility. Those are the ones that have the highest chances that of being picked by Valve. All the older maps that are on the workshop that didn't have that boost in visibility, Eric's not going to see them. That's what people are worried about, because consistently, that's what the workshop does. They make content that gets your attention, content that's not of quality, but content that gets your attention, like Aquarius. Oh, it looks cool. It's the theme park map. Give it a shitload of upvotes. It's all the way bumped to the first couple of pages. Eric sees it, gets put in the game, plays like shit. Plays like raw shit. That's the MO. They did the same thing with the MVM maps, and it's gonna happen again.
That community made is now somehow a pejorative. Either a map is good or it isn't. I don't care who or where it came from. Fortunately, the community MVM scene has collectively dedicated thousands of hours to creating hundreds of missions for the game. Again, potato.
And it's true. There's a lot of good content out there, but Valve consistently picks trash. It's like they actively go out of their way to consistently pick trash, and I cannot trust them to pick not trash for any update.
TF, the main hub for community MVM, only takes money for charity events and server maintenance, with all the server infrastructure being run out of one guy's basement. With this backlog of content, it wasn't made for money or fame or perverse incentives. It was all made for one reason and one reason only: passion. They like the game. Admittedly, I'm not the best person to vouch for this.
Valve consistently ignores the content that is made out of passion. Consistently. Either because it's outright incompatible with their laziness, or it doesn't get mainstream attention. Because the shit that's made out of passion, the shit that's made to look good and play good and fit with the game's tones, themes, and stylization, that doesn't get the likes on Twitter. Putting a dress on Scout, that's a lot of likes. Kill me.
As my experience is nowhere near where it should be. You know, the kind of chef that eats McDonald's every night because the last thing they want to do is spend their free time on more cooking? Yeah, the analogy applies. However, you don't need to rely on my opinion here. Every mission on the Potato campaign is reviewed by multiple teams of judges before getting tossed into the rotation. And the player base seems to be...
Doesn't matter. The community can curate content, and Valve will still ignore it.
In line with the judge's viewpoint.
It sucks. It sucks because I know it's good. I know it's good. They put hundreds, if not thousands of hours into making this stuff and testing it and curating it. I get it. It's good content. But this relies entirely on Valve picking the good stuff, and they will not.
Reviews for these missions, most of them have a 4 out of 5 rating minimum, and even the ones that don't aren't far behind. Valve could hire a monkey to throw darts at a community MVM mission board, and you'd likely come away with a decent tour. They would actively have to try to fuck up this update by going out of their way to pick overly wacky maps that deviate from the traditional MVM experience and spark massive contention among the player base. Oops. Yeah,
They're gonna do it. And you know they will. You know for a fact that they will.
Originally, the fear of over-the-top mission mechanics alongside very polarizing map design wasn't something I was too concerned with. You don't have to look very far to figure out that a lot of community MVM missions are the makings of a child that ate too much Play-Doh and psilocybin. Most of these aren't being submitted, the ones that are have been heavily modified, and oftentimes they rely on source mod plugins to allow for whatever crazy
also relies on community having standards, something that we've seen for 6 years doesn't exist. No, yeah, the ones that do have standards and again make that content out of passion are consistently ignored, and it sucks.
Shit they put in. It's fair to assume that some missions might fall through the cracks, but there's a treasure trove of other missions unbefitting of that wacky categorization. They're so minimal in number that, again, even a dart-throwing monkey would likely miss all of them.
Sure, the overtly wacky stuff is likely not going to get chosen, but again, whatever, like, what's on the workshop right now, map-wise? Let me see here. Let me just pull this up. Maps, and then man versus machine. So, whatever's on the front page is what Valve is going to pick. So that's got a pretty screenshot. That's got a pretty screenshot. That's got a pretty screenshot. When were these all uploaded? These are all uploaded right before the deadline. Yep. Anything with a nice eye-catching screenshot, uploaded right before the deadline. It's only going to be new maps. I guarantee it. Maybe one or two old ones. But anything that's got a flashy thumbnail, this is what's going to get picked. And what's on the front. Like, Valve's not going to go to page 18 and pick an MVM map or a good MVM map, man. They're going to pick whatever's up. They're going to pick whatever's right here. Not the stuff that's been heavily curated by the community and play tested by the community. It's going to be exactly what's there. And that sucks.
Why I was extremely optimistic for the map choices once the update first got announced. There are too many popular, too many widely enjoyed MVM maps to not get a mostly good tour out of it.
And Valve does not care. That's the thing. Valve does not care. They don't care if the map's been heavily play tested. They don't care if the community likes it. They care if it's easy. And it's easy when they see it, and Eric goes, that looks cool, and they put it in the game. They do not give a fuck about the quality of the content being added. If it looks fun, and it encourages people to engage with the update, that's all that matters.
Summer 2024 has unfortunately toyed with my optimism a bit.
As it
Valve
should.
are starting to value novelty, experimentation, a fresh experience, regardless as to whether or not that fresh experience
The content that gets your attention. If Blue Panda were in this room, I would give him a sloppy wet kiss because I will quote that forever. It is content that gets your attention. It is not good content. It is not well-tested content. It is flashy content. It is a novel content. It is meant to be flashy lights and bells and whistles that gets you to engage with the game, get a case drop, and then open it. It's not meant to be good. It is not meant to be good. That's the problem. It's made to get your attention. All of it's made to get your attention.
is actually palatable. Now I've become a bit more cautious, as there are a bunch of good MVM maps that have both thematic and gameplay elements that are very ill-suited towards a base game tour. Some maps are centered around medieval mode weapon restrictions, some maps have players locked onto only one class, Casino City has intra-wave gambling mechanics, Scallops has jump power-ups scattered across the map, Karen seems to have good reviews on the gameplay front, but fuck me if this doesn't look like an Xbox 360 Star Wars game. Train Yard has too many trains. Even a lot of the more normal maps have robot concepts that inch way too far into Crazy Town. Now, I would have written these ones off as laughable inclusions for an official Valve tour a year ago, but I'm not so sure I should be laughing anymore. I don't even mean to disparage the people who made these maps. They all work completely fine in a community context, which is the exact context that they were made under to begin with. But for official, in-game accessible MVM missions, these ones should stay on the cutting room floor.
They're getting in because Valve's MO is whatever's catchy, whatever's grabby, and that includes stuff that was exclusively made for community servers like Versus Saxton Hale.
I'd also say that we keep reskin maps out of the equation. Nothing wrong.
100%. Weezy. Buddy. Pal. You're getting at least one, probably more than one, Halloween reskin of an existing MVM map. That is a guarantee. Guarantee. Christmas ones too. We're going to get Christmas ones too. Watch. We're going to get Christmas MVM maps this year. I fucking bet you we will.
With them inherently, but there's a finite amount of space on the podium, and I don't want it going to a map that we already have. There are also a lot of absurdist elements to community.
That's Valve's MO. Going into maps we already have. That's just what they've been doing for a decade now. We have this map. Fuck it. It's Christmas themed now. Fuck it. It's Halloween themed now. They're gonna do. They did it with Zombie Infection last year. They took Manhattan and they made it Halloween themed, except now it's Zombie Infection and it plays like shit.
MVM maps like pre-game.
It's easy. Easy for the workshoppers, easy for Valve. Money.
Lore dumps and alike, but I trust that mission makers wouldn't want these to make their way into the base game, as a lot of it is contained to community MVM culture. I don't have confirmation on that one way or the other, but that's what I predict. What I personally advocate for is controlled novelty. New robots using new weapons inside of new maps on new missions, but keep everything in line with the traditional MVM formula we've come to expect. No
I
need
agree,
to
but
reinvent
Valve's
the
not
wheel
gonna do
here.
it.
Aim in that
I agree,
direction, and we
but Valve's
shouldn't
not
see
gonna do
any
it.
problems with mission cohesion based on that premise alone. And that'll set us up for the best foundation possible. So, final thoughts. I'm excited for the MVM update. No matter what happens, this is going to be a lot of fun in the short term, and no doubt the game mode will get a
he left
huge
out the
influx
stuff
in
about the
players
matchmaking
once the tour
system.
releases. However, whether or not they decide to stick around will be entirely contingent on how accurately Valve get the basics down. Add new Australiums, don't merge the loot pools across tours, keep the fantastical map elements to a minimum, and adjust mission difficulty according to player feedback. I don't know if Valve realizes just how much the player base will forgive them for if they can just get those 4 things right. Launch day will be fucked. If you're going in expecting it not to be,
You're an imbecile if you forgive Valve for anything at this point. Nothing makes up for the last 8 years. I'm sorry. Like if a good MVM update is all it takes, sure it's gonna make your typical gamer go like Valve is great again. Usually a single case or a shark on a map's good enough for these people too. But if you have more than one functioning brain cell, you will never forgive Valve for anything they did to this game.
disappointment will follow. It'll be a clusterfuck. But the silver lining there is at least we get some good memories out of it. We'll be reminiscing on those vanilla missions like a nom-vet talking to their kids. I expect a lot of outrage around this time, but for me it's so inevitable that I've basically become numb to thinking about it. What I really care about are the intentional design problems, not the unintentional ones, because those actually have long-term ramifications on the health of the game mode. People claim that the worst case scenario for the update is Valve just throwing in a couple shitty bootcamp missions and calling it a day. That isn't true.
Highest
It'd be a
chance.
massive disappointment, yeah, but it wouldn't be actively harmful
Highest
to the
chances.
modern game. The actual worst case scenario is they add in a few shitty missions, add them to bootcamp and man up, and that content becomes a replacement for the already well-liked MVM content
No, that
instead of a
Valve's
supplement.
not that
if
stupid.
you port over the Gen 1 Australiums, this kind of intra-game mode competition is all but guaranteed.
Again,
So how
Valve
about
is
we
not that
not let
stupid.
that happen? The cool thing about Man vs. Machine is because it's been so dry on content updates for over a decade, anything we get has a disproportionately outsized effect on the game. Sure, half a dozen new maps for casual mode is just more sand on the pile, but for MVM, half a dozen new maps is quite literally doubling the game mode's variety.
Oh yeah, and this is what I said a moment ago. People are tired of the stagnation. People are tired of the status quo, and this is a last chance in many people's eyes for Valve to do something good and not fuck it up. But I'm not holding my breath. Listen, Valve isn't stupid, but they're lazy, all right? Valve is lazy, but they're not stupid.
That's a big deal. Solely because of that, I am excited for the update, but I hope people can understand why I've tempered my expectations in regards to the long term. Hopefully shining a light on these potential problems early will minimize the chances they actualize in real time. For me, Man vs. Machine was always another way to keep myself engaged with the game. A third funnel of content to enjoy when casual got boring and
Less is
community
more.
servers are inactive. This update has a real shot at revitalizing that funnel for thousands of other players, and that's why I'm hoping they get it right. If you guys want to check out Community MVM and maybe get a preview as to what might appear in the update,
I fear living in a timeline where I say I miss Manworks. Ah, yeah, it's possible.
Potato.tf has a massive 60 mission campaign
possible.
running as we speak. There's no better time to give it a shot than right now. Start from intermediate and work your way up. It'll
There
be
will-
easier that way.
There will not be a cinematic for this update. As cool as it would be, Valve is not gonna do more work than they have to.
I'll also be streaming community runs with my viewers on Twitch, so go follow me there if you're interested. We're gonna shoot for as many missions as possible, and I'll compile my favorites into a video very soon. If you got any suggestions for what to check out, let me know in the comments below. Anyways, thank you all for watching the video. Twitter, Discord, second channel, and Twitch are all in the description.
And there you go. That is Weezy's delectable MVM video. I am genuinely surprised that he opted to not mention the matchmaking system. I wonder, he said he was trying to make a video on it. I suspect that he may have omitted it because of the controversy surrounding even mentioning the matchmaking system or even hinting that that the quick play stuff is going down. I hope he makes another video about that, because other people talking about it is good. He better make that video. I hope so. I hope so. Because more people need to be talking about how much of a shit show this update's going to be if Valve decides to do nothing with the matchmaking system. Again, the quality of the content, is not going to matter if you can't even get into a server. When did this laziness happen? 2013 was the beginning of Valve's laziness and optimizing their company for making money through gambling rather than making good video games. So it's been a long-standing issue with Valve. Once they really hammered it out with Counter-Strike, that just enabled them to be extremely lazy moving forward. So hopefully he makes that other video. That was a good video regardless. I think it tapped into a lot of the concerns that I've had and many others have had as well. So we'll see what comes of the update. Again, I'm not holding my breath at all. Do you think the matchmaking would be solved if they just enabled Valve servers to appear in the browser and allowed ad hoc connections? That would help a little bit. So, can you stop React streaming? You're sapping viewers from real video? No, because his video is going to get the same number of views anyway. Like, how many people are watching me right now? 600? I have removed 600 views from his video. That's going to get 6 figures. Chill. And I share the link in my chat so people can go like it. I recommend people go like it. People go like the video. Give it a thumbs up so it gets a boost in the algorithm. Go do it. And other people already watched it. So, what was I saying? Yeah, so when it comes to the matchmaking stuff, man, turning on ad hoc connections are incompatible with the current matchmaking system. So they would have to do a lot more than just turning ad hoc connections back on. That's not a switch they can just flip and then it's going to work. It won't. Simply by nature of the skill-based matchmaking system and how it functions being strictly incompatible with ad hoc connections. It just can't be done. A lot more work would have to be done in order to enable ad hoc connections to function and then allow for other benefits to come along with that. That's why I'm making my own video about it. And I had to tweak the angle that I was doing with this video. I had to tweak the angle of this video a little bit because I basically already explained why casual mode sucks, right? I already explained why casual mode sucks. I made a 4-hour video about why it sucks and what Valve could do to fix it. The problem is all of that information is sandwiched between 2 hours of front loading and then an hour of repercussions. So no one's going to like go back and go, oh, this is what's wrong. So I have to pull that out, put it into a separate video, and streamline it a little bit and explain it in even more plain language so more people can understand it. And that was the original angle, was just like a reiteration, except more straightforward, a little bit more detailed as to why the matchmaking system is literally broken and it just needs to be removed, and it does nothing but ruin your playtime in more ways than one. But then I got an idea. It's like, okay, people could still just dismiss the issues with casual mode by saying, hey, I don't care, it works on my machine. What if I actually like the way casual mode functions? So what I did is I got a lot of data, a lot of very, very juicy and informative data on what happens when you play casual mode and just how little time you actually spend playing the game. And I am glad I have that data now, and it's going to be very, very eye-opening when people look at just how little time you actually spend playing the game. It's really my preliminary results are really, really bad and really, really telling of your typical casual mode experience. Let's just I'll give the updated figure now. Would you like to guess the average duration of a 5 control point game in Team Fortress 2? On average. How long do you actually get to play when you're put into a 5 control point server? If you're put into an ongoing game, it is less than 5 minutes. If you're put into a full game, guess how long it lasts? About 10 minutes. Believe it or not, King of the Hill is worse. What's your average playtime on King of the Hill? 8 minutes. And that's also if you're put into the beginning of the game. 8 minutes is the average amount of playtime you get when you're playing King of the Hill. And if you're put into an ongoing game, also less than 5. Thanks, Jill. Care to guess your average downtime between those games? How much downtime do you have between those games? This includes things like queue time, loading into the server, the map vote, the server reset. Would you like to guess the average amount of downtime between those games? It is on the dot 2 minutes. 2 minutes of downtime for, on average, about 10 minutes of playtime, assuming you've been put into the server at the beginning of the game for a ratio of 1 in 5. If any other video game did that, there would be fucking riots. That's a little taste of what I'm working on. That's just a little taste for what I'm working on. And that's also assuming, you know, I'm going to break this down further by map and game mode as well. It gets a lot worse if you're playing anything other than the 10 most popular maps. It gets way worse. Yeah, my voice is better now because I was keeping it low and not trying to project it. Also, painkillers and tea. So payload and attack defend are much higher. Average length of playtime on attack defend is 20 minutes, but that's heavily skewed by Dust Bowl. And then your average length of playtime on payload is 17 minutes. But even then, 17 minutes and 20 minutes? Really? That's pretty fucking short. For payload, 17 minutes is your average length of playtime. That's pathetic. Capture the Flag is also around 10 minutes, because games oftentimes are incredibly short. Again, these are preliminary values. I'm still making some tweaks to how I analyze this data. Yeah, Capture the Flag immensely suffers. King of the Hill immensely suffers. 5 Control Point immensely suffers. That's why most people flock to Payload or Attack Defend, because those two game modes have the highest ratio of playtime to downtime. CTF will be way longer because nobody caps. If you remove Two Fort from the map pool, the average playtime plummets by a lot. Should I return for the next Halloween update? I don't want to invest the time and energy if I can't play. Well, time's gonna tell if Valve decides to do anything. So I can't give an answer. We're just gonna have to wait and see what Valve does. No, yeah. Typically on your average game of 5 Control Point or usually on 5 Control Point, by the time the server fills up, the game's already over. Or the first round's already over. And then half the losing team bails out, and the game is just allowed to begin with half the other team missing. And so the next round is another steamroll. That's why the average length of playtime on 5 Control Point is so fucking low. Most rounds are complete stomps, and it sucks. That's all thanks to the matchmaking system, and a lack of team scrambles, and a lack of fucking auto scramble. It's so nice. The game's been this way for 9 years. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Valve, for gutting this game. Again, very, very eye-opening video that I am working on, that I'm very excited about. So I'm going to cut it off there because I'm going to give my voice a rest so I can, like, not be shitty and sick. So the Nito cycle indeed. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you to Weezy for making that video. You are awesome for doing that. Hope you still make your other video talking about, oh, right, COVID test. Fuck that. I want to do a fucking COVID test on stream. I really don't want to do a COVID test on stream. Fuck you, I'm doing it off stream. I'm not gonna show you this. It's nasty. Yeah, sorry. Y'all take care. I'm gonna go sleep now and make sure I don't have COVID. I'll see y'all later.